Hello and welcome back to the channel. Super excited to do an unboxing today from my dining room. I figured this would be the easiest way to show you all of these cool new plants without having to fight with the lawn crews. So before we unbox this together, I wanted to say hi. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, my name is Michelle. I garden here in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a zone 8A. I'm on your pretty typical suburban lot, and I love growing both edible and beautiful things and sharing all the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way with you here on this channel. And if you've been following me for a while, you know perennials are my absolute weak spot. So when Walter's Gardens asked if they could send over a couple of plants for me to trial, I said, abso-freaking-lutely. All right, so let's do this unboxing. Walter's Gardens is a grower of perennials, and they also do a lot of really neat research and development and hybridizing to bring to market new perennials for brands like Proven Winners. So these are wholesale growers. You can't buy directly from Walter's Gardens, but know when you're buying Proven Winners perennials, you're likely buying something that was grown by them. The lawn crews left and I'm way more in my element outside. So let's go through these perennials really quickly. And I'm gonna give you my first impressions. Since these are all gonna be new to garden centers in 2025, you're gonna have to come back for the update video on how they grow in my garden. But I can share with you what I'm most excited about for each of these perennials. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this heuchera. This has the most gorgeous ruffly leaves. And I will say that in Atlanta, I have struggled in the past with heucheras. I have found that the heucheras in the Primo series do the best for me in the landscape and come back year after year and look really well. So I've tried Wild Rose Heuchera, Caramel Heuchera, and Peachberry Ice Heuchera, and those have all done wonderful. I've never tried the Dressed Up series. I think these are the ones that have all of the ruffly leaves, and I love ruffles. This is Prom Dress, and she is looking really lovely. I don't quite trust our clay soil with this heuchera, so I'm gonna put her in a container so that she's got some extra drainage, and I will give you an update as to how she's growing towards the end of the season. Next up is an ice plant or a Delosperma. I think that's how you say it. This is Kaleidoscope Razzle Dazzle. These blooms look like they're gonna be really, really beautiful. I have never actually planted any ice plants in my garden. They like really good drainage, so I'm gonna try to put them in a gravelly part of my garden and see if they do better there. My understanding is that the special thing about Razzle Dazzle, other than its really cool bloom color, which is like a purple in the center to a pink towards the end of the petals, this has more of a cold tolerance. So if you're in a colder climate, this is gonna be one to watch out for in 2025. Okay, if you're not new to this channel, you know that I have a small obsession with the Firefly Yarrow series, and that is because I have tried many, many other varieties of yarrow, and they have all flopped over in my garden. I'm not great at tolerating floppy perennials, so once I tried the Firefly series, I have the yellow one growing in my garden. I absolutely love it. I barely have to stake it. It stays really upright, nice and compact, and just grows so well. This looks like the red version. This is Firefly Red Pop. So hopefully this one has just as strong stems and stays just as upright as its yellow cousin. This is a penstemon. It looks like it's ending the end of its bloom cycle, which is too bad because penstemons only bloom once. And I would say that's my biggest gripe with penstemon, but peonies also only bloom once, and I really love peonies. And I also love penstemon. They tend to have a pretty long bloom life. I have one other variety of penstemon. I'll insert the name here because all of a sudden I can't think of it. It's like Blackbeard, Black Tongue, Black Beauty. I'm not sure. It's the one with the darker foliage. It does really, really well for me and it spreads. So I'm excited to try this one. This is Bejeweled Rose Rhinestones, and it looks like it's a little bit shorter maybe. More front of the border. So this one stays about 16 inches tall. So that'll be fun to play around with. Although if this really has this much flower power, I'm gonna want a whole giant drift of them. Okay, this next one is Heliopsis. This is Touch of Blush. I've planted a variegated Heliopsis before and it didn't come back for me in the past. It could be a Michelle problem. I only planted one to try out that perennial, but I'm always up for giving things a second chance. So I will try this one. The leaf coloring here has a little bit of pink in the edges, so I guess that's why it's called Touch of Blush. Definitely looks like one of those plants that's going to take all the attention from the garden because of those bright, bright leaves. So even when it's not in bloom, it's stunning. This next one is Designer Threads Golden Needles. My first impression is it looks like a very nice upright thread leaf coreopsis. I love coreopsis, but the varieties that I've planted in the past do flop over for me, so I don't love that. This one looks like it's not going anywhere. So if this one is a non-floppy variety of coreopsis, I might have to get it everywhere. For me, my favorite types of coreopsis are the ones that have these thin leaves because it just contrasts with other perennials in the garden that have a more broad leaf. So it adds that texture to a garden space, which keeps things looking interesting even when things are not in bloom. All right, we're down to the final three. Sorry, guys. All right, this is something that I've never planted before. This is spiderwort, and I've never planted it in my garden because I've heard a lot of warnings about how aggressive it can be. So I'm gonna plant this in a spot and give it some room to grow, and I'll be on the lookout to see how much it spreads. These blooms look like almost an ombre version of the spiderwort that I'm familiar with. This is called Webmaster, so it has a lighter purple bloom. I'm more familiar with the kind of like dark purple bloom. This could give a really nice texture in the garden, and I think if I recall correctly, spiderwort is one of those things that blooms throughout the season, so good for color for an extended period of time. But like I said, I've always been afraid to plant it because I hate extra work in the garden. But we'll give it a try, we'll see. This next one I've also never planted before. This is Stokesea. This is totally stoked Riptide. So this one, I think the claim to fame is that it's more compact and well branching, so you get more blooms without the flop. If you are a lover of periwinkle, this looks like something you're gonna wanna keep your eye out for. Like I said, I've never grown Stokesea before, so I won't really have anything to compare how this grows versus other varieties of Stokesea, but I don't know, it looks pretty. Next one is a new addition to the Summerific series. This is Cookies and Cream. I added hibiscus to the garden for the first time last year. I had kind of been holding off on adding hibiscus because they take up a lot of real estate and I kind of have smaller beds. So I love that we're seeing things come to market that are more compact, and this is exactly that. This hibiscus stays 42 inches tall and wide, which is something that I feel like is pretty easy to tuck into most beds. And I think the flowers are supposed to still be those huge 7 to 8 inch wide flowers. So all I have to say is we'll see. Apparently this one, if you put it in more sun, it gets those really dark leaves, which is what I want. I love the dark leaves when they contrast with a lighter bloom. So I'm really excited to see how this grows in the garden. This time of year is kind of fun for me. I'm new to getting plant samples and trialing plants in my garden, so it's always fun to see what new things are coming out for 2025. I will say that it does drive my husband crazy because he's like, we already have a similar plant. This is almost the same thing. What is the difference? So I think it's one of those, if you know, you know. So maybe you're not excited about the new perennials that are coming out for 2025, but I know those are always my favorite videos to watch to learn what's coming, what's new, and what I should make room for in my garden. So I want to end by saying thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel, and I will see you in the next video.